Hello and welcome. So in this introduction lecture, we're going to download Godot and set it up for use. And then while we're downloading, we're going to talk about why you should be interested in Godot and why it's such a cool engine. So let's go ahead and open up your preferred browser. It can be anything. And then go to Google and just type in Godot. And here we go. The first link is the Godot engine. If we click on it, now what's really awesome, the Godot engine is open source, so that means you can change anything that you like. You can use the engine without paying the developers anything. For example, Unity, if you make over $100,000 a year, you have to buy the subscription, and the free version is limited. Same as Unreal, they take 5% royalties, whereas Godot, you get the full engine, all features, everything. It's open source. You can change anything you like in the engine for free. So that's really awesome. Let's go ahead and click on the download button here, which will take us to the download page. And another awesome thing here is that the Godot engine is truly cross-platform. So which means that you can run this on Linux, OS X, and on Windows, and it's going to work exactly the same. Now Unity and other engines like to say that they're as well cross-platform, but I had some trouble running them on different platforms than Windows. But with Godot, it will work basically the same on any of these platforms. Now, if you're using a Linux, go ahead and click the Linux mirror. If you're using a Mac, go ahead and click on the Mac mirror. But since I'm using a Windows, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the Windows 64-bit mirror, which will start the download of Godot. And you can also find Godot on Steam, if you wish. Now, what's really awesome in Godot is that this engine has a dedicated 2D renderer, which is really important. You might not understand what that is, so I'm going to show you an example of what that means. Now, I'm going to open up Unity. This is Unity. If you're not familiar with Unity, don't worry. You don't have to know anything here to understand what I'm saying. So here you can see this is my game view, and this is a 3D cube, a 3D scene. And if I switch to my scene view, you can see there's a 2D button here. And now you'd think if you click this, you're in a 2D mode, but it just moves the camera to a 2D position. There still is depth in this game. If I select my cube, you can see that it still has an X, Y, and Z position. And we don't really know what these numbers mean. What is this? Is this 1 meter? Is this 5 meters? Is it pixels? What is it? So developing 2D games in Unity can be a hassle, and they tend to be pretty big. And that's why mobile developers are switching to Godot, because when you export small 2D games from Unity, they can be bigger than they should, because Unity has a 3D renderer, and for 2D games it uses the same renderer and just renders it in 2D, but you still have depth. Whilst in Godot, you only have the X and the Y coordinate for 2D, and everything is in pixels. So you can always calculate your game, how tall your character will be, how fast he's moving in pixels, which is really awesome. You'll see how useful that is when we actually get to development. So now I've downloaded Godot, and of course you need to have WinRAR. And then when you open it up, just extract it to your desktop or whatever you like. Once you're done, we have Godot. This is it. And that's pretty much it. We can just open it up and go ahead and use it. There we go. This is the Godot project manager. Here you can see your project list. Here we will be creating our new projects, and you also have templates. Here you can download some pre-made games from Godot and check to see how they work. We have Minesweeper, Binary Game, and Flappy Godot. These are okay, but we're going to create, in this course, the first game we'll create is Pong, which is really simple, just to get you comfortable with coding in Godot. Godot uses its own programming language, but the syntax is very similar to Python, and I personally enjoy it very much. You'll see you will get to enjoy it as well. It's pretty fun to use. And then after we're comfortable with Godot, we're going to develop a 2D platformer like the original Super Mario Brothers, which is going to be a lot of fun. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Goodbye. Hello and welcome back. In this lecture we're going to go ahead and create our project, and we'll write some code to display hello world, because usually with programming, when you're working with something new, you always start with writing a hello world program. So let's go ahead and click on new project. Here we need to define the project path. I'm just going to click browse, and on desktop I'll actually create a new folder called Godot projects, and in that folder I'll just name this project maybe let's name it Pong actually. Great, there we go. And now it's going to open up the Godot game engine. And here we go, this is how it looks like. Now, it might look a bit overwhelming, like any software that you're just opening for the first time. This view here is the 3D view. Don't worry, we won't be talking about this. What interests us is the 2D view. So just click on 2D, and here we go, this is our 2D view. Here you can see this is the viewport of the game. Top left is on the left we have our file system, our resources. Here in this folder we can see we have this icon. On the right side we have our scene, and then down here on the bottom right we have our inspector. Also below here we have the output log, the debugger, and the animation tab. We'll get to everything in sooner or later. Currently what interests us is going to be the output, because we're going to output some text in here. Now if you worked with other game engines before, I highly recommend that you forget everything you know. Don't try to apply any knowledge from other engines to Godot. So if you were using Unity, how Unity worked is we had a scene, and then we had game objects in that scene, and those game objects interact with each other in a scene. In Godot we have nodes, which can be scenes, so an object can be a scene, and different scenes are interacting with each other, and we have different nodes for many different things. For example, we would have a sprite node, and then that sprite node could have a collision node, and all these nodes are connected together through scenes, and they're interacting, and it's a bit hard to explain, but through practice you will understand what I mean and how it works and how awesome it really is. Personally, I enjoy it much more than how Unity works. Now, I'm not saying that Godot is better than Unity. Unity is an amazing engine, and each engine is amazing in its own way. And when developing games, you should think about what kind of game you want to make, and then look for the best engine for that game. So let's go ahead and write a simple program here. So now we have an empty scene. Let's go ahead and actually, back in scenes here, we have this plus sign. Just click on plus, and here you can see we have this search bar. We can search for different nodes, but what interests us is the node 2D, and you can see if I drop it down, it has multiple children: canvas, modulate, navigation, path 2D. Don't worry about this, just select the node 2D and create it. And here we go. Now this is kind of our world node, and every other node will be a child of this node. So let's go ahead and double click it. I'll just call it world. Now we have renamed this node, and you can see in our output here, whatever we do, it's always logged here, so we can, if we forgot what we did, we can just scroll up and see, okay, we created a node, then we renamed the node. Now in the inspector we can see the transform, and as I was telling you the previous lecture, you can see that this node has a position, but it only has two values, an x and a y value. It doesn't have a z value, so there's no depth in the 2D view, in the 2D renderer, because 2D games don't need to have depth unless you're doing a 2.5D game. And we have the rotation, the scale, and also the z if you want to use it, but we won't be using it. Then we have the visibility, is it on, the opacity, the self opacity, the material. And here we have that the script, and currently it's set to null. So let's go ahead and actually save this scene. Hit Control S, and we get a new window. It says save scene as, and we can just save it as world.tstn as in scene, and it's going to save it in the resource folder. So this is here where this icon is. So just click save. There we go. This is our world scene. And if I wanted to attach a script to this node, I could just go ahead and click on this here, this attach script here. Attach new or existing script for the selected node. Since we don't have any existing scripts, we can just click this and create a new script. Now what does this script inherit? Node 2D. Don't worry about this, we'll talk about inheritance in a later lecture. For now, we can just choose the path. Here we have the language, which is GD script. In Godot 3, which is coming out very soon, they will, I believe, incorporate C#. So just keep that in mind. Maybe you're confused, why can you choose languages if there's only one language? And here's the path. Sure, the path it will be the same folder as these two. Just create the script. It's called world.gd. And now you can see that we are in the same editor for the code. Other game engines, for example Unity, will use something along the lines of Visual Studio or Mono Develop for your code writing, but Godot actually has a built-in text editor. So if you see here, we are on the script tab. If we go back to 2D, this is where our game is. We can just click on script and be back in our script. So I'm just going to remove everything here. Now, extends node 2D. This means that this class inherits all the methods and functions contained in the node2 library. And here we can write some variables, which will be useful for later. But now we have a function which is called ready. And how the syntax works here is it's in tabs. So as long as everything is tabbed like this, it's considered to be part of this function. So if I were to write in if something, and then if that is tabbed like this, it's considered to be in that if statement. But we'll get to that later, don't worry. So what does the function ready do? Basically, when the game starts, it's going to load everything in the scene from top to bottom, and when it's loaded everything, then this function will execute the code contained within. So what I could say is I could go ahead and say print, and then have some text here, hello world. No need for semicolons here. Then if we just start R and just save this, select, we need to select the main scene, which is our only scene we have, the world scene. Okay, allow access. Now the game started, there is nothing, just a blank game, but here we have in the output hello world. We can of course change this to say hi. If I save and run now, we get hi. Another cool thing is the game is running in the background. We can still change the code here. So now it says hi, I will change it to hello, and just hit this button here, and it's just going to restart, and there we go, it says hello. Okay, so function ready is going to be a very important function for us. Another very, very important function is going to be the process function. So this is how it looks. Now you might think, what does it do? Basically, it does something every frame. So if I say print hello world, it should print something every frame. It should print hello world every frame. But it won't do that. I'm going to show you right now. If I just start it, we just get hello. This isn't working. Well, that's because in our ready function, we need to say set process to true. This means that we are enabling this method. So basically, when the game starts, we will first print hello, then we will set the process of this function to execute each frame to be true. So this will be executing each frame. This is very useful, and we will be using it a lot in game development. And we can also set this to false if you sometimes don't want to use it. Let's go ahead and save this script, and if I run it now, you will see that we do in fact get hello world each frame printed out. There we go, it's still printing. I'm just going to stop the simulation and remove this. Oops. Okay, so that's going to be it for this lecture. It's already pretty lengthy, 10 minutes. We will continue in the next one. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you then. Hello guys, and welcome back. So in this lecture, we're going to show you how we can display hello world in the game view. So not in the output. We're going to actually see it when we play the game, displayed on our screen. Before we start, I want to show you something. If we go back to the script view, here we have classes. Now if we click this button, we can search for a class, for example node 2D, and if you click on it, you can see here where I have my world.gd, where our code is for displaying hello. Below that we have node 2D, and here it says what this class inherits and other classes that inherit this class. And we have a brief description that this is the base node for 2D systems. So when working with 2D game development in Godot, we will be using the node 2D very often. Here we have the public methods that are available to us. You can see them here and click on them to get a detailed description of each of these methods, which I think is really cool that you can learn here. If you ever get stuck, you can find solutions for everything, all built in Godot. So you don't need any internet access to learn from these. I mean, some are kind of brief descriptions, but once you use them, you'll get a good understanding of how they work. So let's go ahead and go back to our 2D view, and we want to create some sort of text. So how will we display text in Godot? If you used Unity or any other game engine, you would first create a canvas and then create a text game object and then display some text. But in Godot, we have our main 2D node, which is called world, and we will add more nodes to this node. So let's go ahead and add a new child node, and what we want to add is some kind of text. So just type in search text, and under control we get rich text label. Go ahead and click create. Now the rich text label is a child of our world, but it's in the top left corner, so I'm going to hit W to just move it to, let's say, the center. And down in his inspector, we have something called BB code. Here you can write text, or you can click on this here and just write in hello world. Okay, close. Now here it says hello world, but the rectangle is pretty small and it doesn't fit. So let's scroll down, and here we have the rect. The size is 4040. Let's set it to 100 by 100. There we go. Actually, the Y doesn't need to be this big. It can be maybe 40. Let's say 30, 20. There we go. Okay. So here we have hello world. Now, if I were to run this game, let me just increase the scale to maybe 4:4. There we go, much bigger. It's easier to see this like that. Now, if I run the game, hello world is written here, and this works by default for text scrolling. We can disable this in the inspector, don't worry. But this isn't really a efficient way to write hello world. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but I want to show you how we can do this through code. So I'm going to go back to the BB code and just disable this, set it to nothing, a blank string. And I'm going to move back to our script. Okay. So now in function ready, what I want to do is I want to get the reference to this rich text label. How we do that is we say get node, and here is the name of the node. Now Godot has a great autocomplete, which here you can see that the dot represents the current node, and below it we have rich text label, which is the only other node we have. So just hit enter, select it, and then we close it. Now we can say dot, whoops, set text, and we can set this text to some string, which can be hello world. And there we go. Let me see if I can zoom this out. Okay. So if you go back to our 2D view, this is blank. Now if I run the game, it says hello world. So how this works? Basically, this is blank, but this is the rich text label node, which is a child of the world node, and the world node has a script attached to it. The script that is attached is this one. When we start our game, first thing we do is we print hello. This isn't really needed anymore, I can just delete it. So now first thing, everything loads up. Now when these two nodes are ready, we get our rich text label node, so this one, and then we set the text to hello world. Now Godot is pretty great in this context. It's really the syntax is really understandable and easy to read. I mean, if you showed this to somebody who doesn't know anything about programming, he would understand, you're setting the text to hello world. So we get the node rich text label, this one, then we just set the text to hello world. Then we say set process true, and this function would execute each frame, but there's no code to execute, then it does nothing. Now there's another way to write this. We can create a variable called, let's say, variable text, which is going to be equal to hello world. And then instead of saying hello world here, we can simply say text. So we set the text of the rich text label node to be equal to text, but text is hello world. So this should also write out hello world. There we go. Now why it's better to use variables instead of just hard code values in here, I can easily change this to maybe have a good day, and everywhere I can change this only here at the top where I declare the variable, and everywhere else in the script where text is being called, it's going to be equal to have a good day. So here you'll see it's going to say have a good day. Another thing is, if you've been using Unity, you remember that you could say in front of a variable, you could say public, and then you would be able to play around with the variable in the inspector. We can also do that in Godot, but instead of saying public, we simply say export. Now if I click on the rich text label, let me just wait a second. We have to go to the world node, because the script is attached to the world node. And here we have the text. It's under script values. The text is have a good day. We can change that to maybe Godot is cool. And now if we run the game, there we go. Godot is cool. So there you have it. If you want your variables to be accessible outside of a script. Now why you would have this? Well, because if you're working in a team and some designers maybe aren't comfortable with programming, and instead of having them changing the values of your script, you just say exports, and they just click on the node and have all values here like text, or usually you would do something like character movement speed, and it can be changed here on the fly while you're testing, which is really cool. You'll see, we'll get to that pretty soon. But this is it for this lecture. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.